Part 68. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 674. At this time, on the field, the blood corpse ghost god looked at his mutilated body parts and Shen Jian's provocative behavior, and he couldn't hold back. At the same time, there was a bit of surprise in my heart. His body organs were so easily controlled by this man, and he couldn't even enter deeper into the ghost realm. There is weirdness. Think of this. He opened his mouth and uttered a syllable of unknown meaning. Come. The sound spreads. A cold breath filled the air. An inexplicable supernatural wave also began to sweep around. Just for a moment, the faces of the ghosts changed drastically. In their eyes, the appearance of the resurrected ghosts and gods in front of them was extremely impressive. They were composed of bright red organs, intertwined into a disgusting body with no skin, dripping blood, and squirming flesh. Coupled with the missing eyes, fingers, and other defects, even in the ghost world, the opponent would be considered ugly. If there were a competition among the 10 ugliest ghosts, then this blood corpse ghost god would undoubtedly be among the best and compete for first place. They know. This ghost and god cannot be considered a complete recovery because he still lacks the final skin. But even so, the other party is still a ghost. And its level of terror is far beyond that of normal ghosts and gods. Even the protagonists in the entertainment city who stand out in big movies and become ghosts and gods are not as strong as the bloody corpse in front of them. I am afraid that even among the major movies, this 5-star supernatural place is unprecedented. They were in big trouble. If you are not good, just wait to become the protagonist of others' feast. At this time, they saw the bloody corpse ghost opening its mouth. He uttered an incomprehensible word. Listen carefully. This is clearly the word come. Its sound ripples. Everyone present felt their minds buzzing, as if a heavy hammer had hit their minds hard. The souls of the dead are rising inside. Damn it, he's summoning the soul, his voice is so unpleasant. Is he talking to his missing organ? Why do I have the urge to cut open my stomach, take out the heart, and inject all the blood into his body? He is obviously not talking to us. This kind of supernatural erosion is also it's too domineering. Damn, this is too weird. I, the top ghost king, actually feel that this bloody corpse is perfect, and I desperately want to merge with him. Get out of my ears. What are you barking at? The ghosts roared. A few top ghost kings can still resist this supernatural erosion, but the vast majority of ghost kings below the top ghost kings are already scratching their cheeks and screaming in pain. The ghost hand has been raised. He cut his stomach. The pain on his face turned into a charming smile in an instant. Holding up his heart, he walked towards the bloody corpse ghost and god like a pilgrim. It seems to be even more evil than the legendary cult. It made many people feel chilly in their hearts. If this scene were changed, it would be that believers are serving the ghosts and gods they worship. But now, this kind of worship is compulsory. He is forcing his followers to sacrifice themselves. This is something no one wants to see. See this scene. The bloody corpse ghost continued to open his mouth. Come. 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 Continuous ghost sounds exploded in the sky. More and more ghost kings could not bear this supernatural erosion, and they took the initiative to reveal charming smiles on their faces, held up their hearts, and dedicated them to the Lord. Such a scene is fascinating no matter how you look at it. However, when the blood corpse ghost looked at Shen Jian again, the expression on his face suddenly stiffened. Because Shen Jian disappeared. Yes. Disappear in place. Some of his organs were still tied to a blood-stained hemp rope and hung in the air. As he shouted, these organs moved faster and faster, spinning in circles in the air. Just like a swinging spinner at an amusement park. And Shen Jian, who was supposed to be holding the rope, disappeared at some point. That's what I thought. The bloody corpse ghost suddenly discovered that a big palm leaf fan hand stretched out from his heart. Shrink again. His heart was gone. Blood corpse ghost. He was confused. Turned around blankly. He happened to see Shen Jian standing behind him, his right hand still holding his heart. His pupils widened. He pointed at Shen Jian tremblingly. You old bastard, you came to steal on horseback and deceived me, an 80-year-old man. He's so inhuman. The other side. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. He raised the heart in his hand and grinned, are you surprised? Are you surprised? While talking, Shen Jian's eyes also showed a little excitement. Unexpectedly, part of Luo Fengtian's authority in this third area could be obtained so easily. He originally planned to take a look at the situation, but he didn't expect that this ghost and god directly launched a map cannon attack and dangled in front of him with Luo Fengtian's authority that he cherished so much. It would be a shame for him not to pay for it. Thinking. The blood corpse ghosts and gods also reacted. You, what are you doing? His expression was like seeing his wife rolling on the same bed with a wild man, with a mutilated and bloody face filled with shock, confusion, and sluggishness. Apparently, he had not expected this situation. I don't understand how Shen Jian took out his heart. What are you doing? Don't you want these people to merge with you and become a complete individual? The blood corpse ghost nodded subconsciously. That's right. That's right. But what does this have to do with you ripping out my humming heart? See this. Shen Jian smiled. The smile on his face was very weird. Ugly brother, your IQ is really proportional to your appearance. The road to fusion does not distinguish between you and me. You can fuse with others, and I can fuse with you. In this way, won't we go hand in hand? Say it. Shen Jian opened his mouth. Put the heart in your hand to your mouth. The next second, the heart turned into a few wisps of red gas and was swallowed into the abdomen. This moment, the whole place fell into dead silence. Almost to the point where you can hear a pin drop. Everyone was dumbfounded. I was shocked by Shen Jian's sick operation. What the hell? Can he eat the fried cake? He actually swallowed the most dangerous organ in this ghost and god's body. It's against the sky, what on earth is he thinking? Isn't this just passing the clues to the enemy? Crazy, crazy, this behavior looks dangerous, but it is actually unsafe. You're riding a horse here and there. Gan, what kind of disease do I need to get to be as defiant as him? All the ghosts were confused. I don't understand what Shen Jian is doing. Judging from the supernatural attack just launched by Zhongguishan, all the organs in his body are harmful. Once they are parasitized on other ghosts, they will crazily absorb nutrients until the parasitized person is eaten dry. However, Shen Jian ate the opponent's core. Or in person. What's the difference between this and the torture of other people's wives in front of the mistress? Apart from letting honest people perish together, it has no effect at all. No matter how you look at it, Shen Jian's behavior can be called sick. Certainly. Some of the top ghost kings seemed to have thought of something. There was a look of defeat in his eyes. Is it possible? Is that heart really the authority mentioned by the city lord of Entertainment City? If this is the case, they have completely failed. After all, once it enters the stomachs of ghosts and gods, can they still make each other spit it out? In such an atmosphere. Just when the ghost kings thought that the blood corpse ghost god would show an expression of excitement and ecstasy, they discovered that the face of the blood corpse ghost god had indeed changed. Turned pale. Spit it out, you can get on your horse and let me spit it out. This moment, the blood corpse ghosts and gods could no longer remain calm. He seemed to be going crazy, grabbing Shen Jian's mouth with his ghost hands, as if he was planning to take out his heart from Shen Jian's mouth. That appearance stunned everyone present. What happened? Shen Jian committed suicide by swallowing the heart of a bloody corpse. He shouldn't be happy. This expression. How could it be the same as when he was arrested and raped? His wife and the wild man regarded him as nothing and were still engaging in primitive movements, but when he tried to pull them apart, he was pushed down by the wild man, tied up, and watched helplessly. Haha, ugly brother, the situation is too small, so working together is the best choice. You are too small-minded. Shen Jian said with a smile. The earth and rocks surged underground, sinking the 2 feet of the bloody corpse ghost and god, and wrapping them up. Blood corpse ghost god. God is so small. If you have a big plan, just give your heart back to me. He struggled with a ferocious expression. However, the suppressive supernatural effect of the black soil has taken effect, again. In addition, Shen Ji unwrapped his legs, and for a while, he was unable to move, let alone break free from the restraints. This time, he panicked. Just a silent supernatural attack, which made him unable to resist. What level of terror has this guy reached? Why would such a being come to argue with him about this? This is unreasonable. He murmured to himself, it shouldn't be like this, the result shouldn't be like this, I will die, and you will die too. As he spoke, he looked up at Shen Jian. See this? Shen Jian's eyes flashed. His expression also became enthusiastic. Ugly brother, tell me in detail, maybe I can give your heart back to you. You will die, you will die. Either I fuse you and walk out with authority, or you swallow me whole and walk out with authority. Other than that, you have no other choice. Come on, since I can't fuse you, then you can only fuse me, let me become one with you, and successfully control, restrain, and change everything about you. Only in this way will the authority be yours. The bloody corpse ghost raised its head. A crazy sinister smile flashed on his face. He has seen that he cannot compete with this man, but he will not die, he will become one with this man and become another part of him. This is not a beautiful word, but a superficial meaning. He will become another part of a body, responsible for controlling, monitoring, and changing the man's mind to become the most loyal subordinate and obey his master. Hear this. Shen Jian was thoughtful. Although he had already guessed it, he still clicked his tongue when he heard the blood corpse ghost god say these words. The protagonists of so-called big movies are basically subordinates controlled by world-weary ghosts and gods. In the third place, Luo Fengtian's authority is also controlled by these selected protagonists, and the protagonists obey the orders of world-weary ghosts and gods, which means that the complete authority is still controlled by her. Just in a different way. Without him, Lin Yan, the protagonist of this 5-star movie copy, would also enter here, win the battle with the blood corpse ghosts and gods, inherit everything from him, and successfully advance to the level of ghosts and gods. Then he walked out of the Valley of the Buried Gods and fought against the Lord of Yinko Hall, finally winning a complete victory. A very perfect script. Lin Yan, who has some authority, will also have his knowledge quietly rewritten by the blood corpse ghost and god when he leaves Wutong City and enters the Entertainment City, and becomes a subordinate who obeys the orders of the world-weary ghost and god. So, not only did she have an extra ghost and god as her subordinate, but she also had full control over her authority. Think of this. Shen Jian clicked his tongue. Compared with the plans of world-weary ghosts and gods, Emperor Qing of Qing Kingdom was like a child. Not only did he only capture one of the 9 dragon spirits, he didn't even know where the other dragon spirits were. Thinking. The blood corpse ghost smiled sinisterly, why are you still standing there? Keep swallowing my body. Otherwise, once the authority leaves my body for a certain period of time, and my breath is not connected to the authority, he will come and kill me. You destroy. Shen Jian's eyes lit up. He just stood there and waited. For a long time. No movement was seen. Shen Jian looked at the bloody corpse ghosts and gods, as if to say, "Where is the person you are talking about?" Blood corpse ghost god. He froze. Confusion was written in his eyes. The authority has left his body, and he has not merged with Shen Jian. This has triggered the supernatural beings left by world-weary ghosts and gods. Why didn't she appear? Is it because there is no time? In shock and doubt, a row of scarlet panels appeared in front of Shen Jian. Warn. Warn. Serious warning. It has been detected that the player has attracted the attention of world-weary ghosts and gods. Scarlet words kept emerging. Then disappear. Only one sentence is left that is clearly not spoken by a thriller game. If you steal my things, you will regret it soon. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 675. Chapter 671 Player Copy Settlement. Looking at the prompts on the scarlet panel, Shen Jian frowned slightly. It seems that this world-weary ghost and god also saw something unusual in him, otherwise he would not have allowed one of Luo Feng's powers to fall on him and remain indifferent. But that would be inconsistent with his original intention. God Burial Valley has some of Luo Fengtian's authority, which is an unexpected gain, but his original purpose of appearing here was to find the whereabouts of world-weary ghosts and gods. At the moment, the clues are indeed there. But others made it clear, "I won't come." Those harsh words clearly meant that he was too timid to come here. Perhaps it was her intuition as the master of the third place, Luo Fengtian, that warned her, or perhaps she had already discovered her identity, so she did not dare to show up. But either way, it's not good news for him. Because this means that he can't find the world-weary ghosts and gods in the 5-star copy here, and he can't get back other permissions. Think of this. Shen Jian's eyes darkened. According to his judgment, the authority carried by the blood corpse ghosts and gods is roughly around 10%. It is equivalent to 1/10 of the complete authority of the third Luo Fengtian Taishiliangshi Zongtian Palace. It is similar to the total amount of qi of a complete dragon in Qingguo. This level of authority can only be said to be better than none. The remaining 90% should be partly in the hands of world-weary ghosts and gods, and partly in the hands of the so-called protagonists. To find these people, and even world-weary ghosts and gods, the amount of work required is far greater than searching for the 9 dragon qi. After all, if a world-destroying ghost and god insists on hiding, it will be difficult for him to find him in a short time, and the time required will also be measured in years. This is not what Shen Jian wants to see. The current development of the underworld has entered a bottleneck stage. If there are not enough yin differences, the development speed of the underworld will be severely restricted. And relying on only one yin difference, the development speed will be even slower. The only breakthrough lies in taking control of the 6 great powers of Luo Fengtian hidden in the horror world. It doesn't take much, as long as there is one area of Luo Fengtian under his control, then he will have a steady stream of candidates for underhanded schemes. It can cover the entire Dragon Kingdom under the jurisdiction of the underworld to the greatest extent. But now, in his hands, the first Luo Fengtian, Zhoujuanian Palace, which is the jurisdiction of Qingguo, has only collected 5 items. The second place, Luo Fengtian, Zhongling Cafe Heavenly Palace, is also under the authority of Olympus, and only half of it has been collected. At present, the third Luo Fengtian, Taishiliangshi Zongtian Palace, which is also under the jurisdiction of the City of Entertainment, has only collected 1/10. Following this trend, subsequent recycling work will definitely be a long process. During this period, the development of the underworld will gradually approach saturation until it completely stagnates. Thoughts are spinning. The dark luster in Shen Jian's eyes became deeper and deeper. This is too much of a delay. The development of the underworld cannot stagnate, otherwise the war in the western continent will burn to the entire world sooner or later. By then, what is left to the underworld will only be a devastated, ruined, and ghostly world. Thinking, Shen Jian quickly had an idea. He originally did not intend to use this idea on Luo Feng Liuxian. But right now, actually controlling Luo Feng Tian is more important than anything else. Even if it overturns the entire entertainment city. He also wants to find out all the misanthropic ghosts and protagonists who hold authority, and fully reclaim all the authority of Luo Feng Tian in the third place. Even Jesus could not stop what he said. A long time. Shen Jian looked back. It fell on the blood corpse ghost and God again. Ugly brother, how are you? Has your world-weary ghost come? All the flowers I've been waiting for have withered. Blood corpse ghost God. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Ganli Niangs. The world-weary ghost and God actually tricked his subordinates like this. Could it be that he didn't bring any paper with him when he was pooping? Otherwise, why wouldn't you come now? If all the rescues were like yours, us supporting characters would have been completely out of sorts. Aren't you the best at arranging other people's lives on horseback? Aren't you the best at asking the protagonists in movies to save people? Why don't you learn from this fine tradition? He wanted to cry but had no tears. I didn't know what to do for a while. It's so damn embarrassing to say harsh words but not be able to achieve them. If he hadn't been shameless, he would have built a large villa underground. How about you let me go? Anyway, you have obtained the authority, and the world-weary ghosts and gods are not here. You are free. You are the only person who has obtained authority and is not controlled. If I were you, I would run away now. It is better to escape from the deep ghost realm, whether it is going to other realms, the horror world or the human world, it is better than staying here or in the entertainment city. The blood corpse ghosts and gods began to surrender. His tone also became humble. However, Shen Jian didn't buy it. She glanced at him sideways and said with a smile, "That can't be done. I have already said that we will go hand in hand. How can I go back on my word? I am a person who sticks to my word. There is no reason to take back what I say. You are very principled when riding a horse. But isn't it used in the wrong place?" The expression of the bloody corpse ghost and God felt uncomfortable. He wanted to escape. But his feet were wrapped in pits formed by black soil, and he couldn't escape. You can only watch Shen Jian getting closer and closer. Then. Just don't know anything anymore. All I heard was your master will be with you soon. The other side. Witnessing Shen Jian playing tricks on the resurrected blood corpse, all the surviving ghost kings were dumbfounded. He looked shocked and in disbelief. They thought about many possibilities. For example, Shen Jian lost his temper and allowed the blood corpse ghost to revive and found that he was no match and became a clown. For another example, two people are evenly matched and both lose in the end, or one party wins with a slight advantage. But what they didn't expect was that Shen Jian could suppress the blood corpse ghost and God effortlessly. No, more specifically, crushed. Obviously there was not even a supernatural outburst between the two of them, and it was impossible to tell who had higher supernatural power. However, Shen Jian casually mobilized the black soil that could suppress supernatural powers to suppress the blood corpse ghosts and gods. This is not a victory achieved simply by relying on black soil. It's the gap between all aspects. It is very human to mobilize the black soil, and you can kill randomly in the God Burial Valley, but it is still more difficult to quickly suppress a ghost and god. But Shen Jian suppressed it in an instant. This means that Shen Jian's terror level is at least one level higher than that of blood zombies, ghosts, and gods. Even if it doesn't reach the world-destroying level, I'm afraid it's not far behind. Why does such an existence appear here? The ghosts were wailing in their hearts. When complaining about Shen Jian, he bullied the younger ones. It's like a ghost. It is a shame for ghosts and gods. It was different from the reactions of other ghost kings. All the players in the audience were excited. Not only because Shenjian won, but also because of the scarlet panel that appeared in front of them. Hidden plot mission, prevent ghosts and gods from being born, completed. It is detected that the player has participated in the final plot, and the dungeon rewards will begin to be settled. Current mission MVP, King Yama. Task participation, 100%. It was detected that the player's contribution was low and only a guaranteed 1% participation rate was obtained. Start settlement. They didn't expect it. Under such circumstances, they still completed this unprecedented task. This is so dreamy. Twists and turns. If you don't have a big heart, I'm afraid you won't be able to survive until the end. But now, all the suffering has come to an end. They finally survived this hell-level dungeon mode. Certainly. They know it too. All this is the credit of the figure who is packing the bloody corpses of ghosts and gods. Their so-called participation was just entering the god burial valley together, nothing more. Recalling the deeds they had heard about, they finally understood the feeling that Wang Lan, Qi Shan, and Zhou Fan had when they won. Really cool. Just shout 666, the great god can reach the world, and clearing the dungeon is like drinking water. This feeling of pleasure cannot be described in words. Soon, the interface for ending the copy appears. The current copy has ended. Do you want to enter settlement? Yes. Almost everyone chose settlement at the first opportunity. After all, with their strength, it is already a miracle that they can clear this 5-star movie dungeon. Although they have Shenjian, a powerful generation, it is difficult for them to have the idea of continuing to stay in the dungeon. Wang Lan, Kishan, and others looked at Shenjian. As they disappeared, Shenjian glanced at them. At the same time, Shenjian chose no. The player's stay in the dungeon has been detected and the selection has been confirmed. Warn. The thriller game has entered the adjustment stage in the current mode, players cannot participate in other copies, and the chat function is temporarily closed. See this. Shenjian frowned. Adjustment. Adjust what? Since the arrival of the thriller game, he has never heard of any glitches in the thriller game. Now this adjustment made him subconsciously feel that it was not simple. And also closed the chat interface. In this case, all players lose the most important communication function. The transmission of information will become much more difficult. Especially for players in the dungeon, it can be called a nightmare. Think of this. Shenjian shook his head. Suppressed unnecessary thoughts. He has decided to destroy this copy, go directly to the entertainment city, and overthrow Luo Fengtian. No matter how much the thriller game is adjusted, it won't affect him. But the first priority is to recover the dragon energy from the protagonist Lin Yan. Shenjian pondered for a moment. I feel a little strange. Logically speaking, the protagonist should have entered the God Burial Valley to investigate clues in the past few days after disappearing. But until now, the protagonist has not appeared. Something a little abnormal. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigua. Chapter 676. Outside the God Burial Valley. Shenjian walked out of it. I was surprised that the protagonist didn't participate in this plot. After all, he had already told his cheap son a few days ago about the anomalies in the God Burial Valley, and also learned that this supernatural place was the place where the protagonist went up the mountain after disappearing for more than 10 years. Logically speaking, in the past few days when the protagonist Lin Yan disappeared, he should have gone to the God Burial Valley to investigate clues. No matter what, he would have been trapped in the God Burial Valley. However, he has already patrolled the God Burial Valley and has not found the whereabouts of the protagonist at all. This made Shen Jian very curious. Besides here, where else can the protagonist Lin Yan go to investigate? Or is this all related to world-weary ghosts and gods? Shen Jian was thoughtful. Think about it. Take out your phone. A task was posted in the Supernatural game app. Unexpected mission, find the master of the Temple of Heaven. He has made up his mind that after everything in this dungeon is over, he will directly follow the grave ghosts and other local ghosts from the entertainment city into the third place, Luo Fengtian, and completely overturn this place. As for the impact of this move, he no longer cares. The top priority is to take control of Luo Fengtian's complete authority as soon as possible and transform it into a talent base for cultivating evil spirits to fully ensure that the expansion of the underworld will not be restricted. This is the most important. In contrast, although the disadvantages of overturning a Luo Fengtian will double the reconstruction work of the underworld, it is enough if the pros and cons can be balanced. He still didn't believe that world-weary ghosts and gods would watch his foundation be destroyed. With this thought, Shen Jian took Suro, the ghost professor, and the school beauty ghost answered Su's medical clinic. He could have left now. But because the protagonist is missing, he still needs to stay for a while. Until the protagonist's share of dragon energy is recovered and a complete dragon energy is formed. By then, the number of dragon energy he collected will reach as many as 6. In terms of completeness, it is the most complete among the 3 Luo Fengtians he has come into contact with so far. In fact, Shen Jian initially thought that Qingguo would be his first complete collection of Luo Fengtian, but because the 9 dragons were spread too far apart, he had only collected 6 now. There is still a long way to go before collecting 9 dragon energy. At the moment, this first fully recovered Luo Fengtian quota will be given to the entertainment city. There is also the human realm, one of the 6 realms of reincarnation. This is the first reincarnation that has unlocking conditions since he unlocked the 6 paths of reincarnation. It requires a complete recovery of Luo Fengtian to unlock it. However, the difficulty of recovering the authority prevented him from unlocking this most important 6 paths of reincarnation. Instead, one of the 3 evil realms, the Hell realm and the Animal realm, comes out on top. Even unlocking the Hungry Ghost path is far simpler than the human path. Think of this. Shen Jian couldn't help but frown. While looking for the protagonist, he also had to catch the 50 moneyless ghosts needed for the Hungry Ghost path as soon as possible. In this search, several days passed quickly. Recently, Shen Jian traveled back and forth to Wutong City, catching moneyless ghosts while looking for the protagonist Lin Yan. At the same time, the 2 largest forces in Wutong City, Yinkou and Tianshan Temple, are also secretly searching. But for several days, nothing was found. Shen Jian thought of the worst possibility. During the opening period of the Valley of the Buried Gods, the protagonist Lin Yan was taken away by world-weary ghosts and gods after entering the Valley of the Buried Gods, and had already left this dungeon. If this is the case, then there is no need for him to waste time. Anyway, he has already collected the 50 wealthless ghosts who unlocked the Hungry Ghost path. Use the parchment to predict once more. If there are still no clues, forget it. Thinking, Shen Jian returned to Su's medical clinic. Just opened the door. Then he saw the beautiful woman Suji standing behind the door with a shy face, her head slightly lowered, not daring to look at Shen Jian. The biting of her lips showed how nervous she was at the moment. Shen Jian looked over. There were ripples in my heart. The beautiful woman in front of her had her hair tied into a ponytail and hung down on her chest. The 2 bangs on her forehead hung down along her temples and extended to her ears. Her delicate face, lightly painted with pink and white, was rosy, smooth, and delicate. His eyes were slightly narrowed, with a hint of shyness. He looked as shy as if he was waiting for his lover at home. Looking further down, an ultra-short white dress was put on the beautiful woman. The sleeveless wide shoulder strap design exposed her two jade shoulders. The hem of the dress was so short that even young girls could not accept it, and it only covered her body. He reached the position 7 or 8 centimeters below the buttocks of the mature woman in front of him. A single movement of bending down will release the beauty, which is a feast for the eyes. It seemed that it was the first time for Suji to wear such a short skirt, which made her very uncomfortable. Her beautiful legs were pressed together nervously. From time to time, she would change her posture and gently pull the skirt down. There was a hint of surprise in Shen Jian's eyes. He has seen this set of clothes. I saw it when I first entered the protagonist's mother's bedroom. I didn't expect to wear it today. It was still worn for him. When he thought of the loyal, conservative protagonist's mother wearing clothes that even young girls found daring and uncontrollable because of him, he felt ready to act. "Aunt Ji, you are so beautiful." Shen Jian did not hesitate to praise him. His eyes were even more fiery. He doesn't hide his desires at all. See this. The beautiful woman Suji's cheeks turned even redder, but there was also a smile that couldn't be concealed at the corner of her mouth. Apparently, Shen Jian's praise made her feel a little more relaxed. After all, her behavior can be called shameless. She is seducing a young man who is about the same age as her son. And she is also a ghost doctor, a doctor with holy hands and a healing heart. This kind of behavior is enough to attract all kinds of people. Rumors. But when she saw the fire in Shen Jian's eyes, she felt that it was worth it. This little man just does what she does. Ever since she was upset by her sister's words, she began to pay attention to the interaction between her sister and Shen Jian consciously or unconsciously. She saw her younger sister, who was younger than herself, unmarried and without children, standing with Shen Jian. At most, it is said to be a sibling relationship. Unlike her, Young and Shen Jian are already one round away from each other, and she can be Shen Jian's mother. Going out, she has absolutely no comparison. This gave her a sense of crisis. She was going to catch this little man. With this thought in mind, she came up with her outfit today. "Aunt Ji, are you trying to seduce me by dressing like this? Aren't you afraid that Professor Su or your future daughter-in-law will come back and see you sweating?" Shen Jian held the beautiful woman in his arms, lowered his head and kissed her. Well. Suji only had time to let out a whimper before she was picked up by Shen Jian and walked towards the bedroom where her son used to live. Although she was shy, she still responded to Shen Jian's enthusiasm. A long time. Parted lips. She lay on Shen Jian's shoulder with a red face and whispered, "Suro has class today and won't be back, Manjao will tell me before she comes. Besides, Suro is your sister-in-law, why does she always live here with us? And Manjao comes too frequently, which has disturbed our normal activities." The more she spoke, the redder her face turned. Because these words are undoubtedly saying nakedly, "I want a married life." In other words, the mother of the protagonist has already identified Shen Jian as her husband. Hear this. The strangeness in Shen Jian's eyes deepened. It seems this beautiful woman's possessiveness has reached its peak. In order to live a two-person world with him, he had already planned to drive his sister back, and the school beauty ghost came too often. 9 times in 3 days may be an exaggeration, but 2 times a day is normal. The euphemistic name is to deal with the problems of mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, and father-in-law in advance. To this, Shen Jian knew it, but he didn't reveal it. As for the ghost Professor Suro, she was guarded by Suji like a thief and had no chance to intervene. But Shen Jian is not worried. The days are still long and there are always opportunities. The most important thing now is to relieve this beautiful woman's strong possessive desire and let her know that she alone cannot completely occupy this man. By the time her possessiveness will gradually let go, and she will begin to feel that she can't bear it alone. By then, subtly, she will start to think about her sister who covets her brother-in-law. Two phoenixes playing with a dragon are not far away. Think of this. Shen Jian was even more excited. Now, if someone stands at the door of the medical center, they will hear several high-pitched sounds from time to time. The next day, Shen Jian woke up. The sun shone, revealing the sleeping face of the beautiful woman Suji. Shen Jian chuckled. Get up. Came to the Yinko hall as before. But this time, he used parchment. A search conducted by the two most powerful forces in Wutong City, the Tianshan Temple and the Yin Cao, found no trace of the protagonist Lin Yan. He had reason to suspect that the protagonist had already left this copy. Whether it is passive or active, it means that it is meaningless for him to stay in this copy. Thinking, Shen Jian threw the parchment to the lucky ghost who was bound at the beginning. Soon, the parchment reacted. Black handwriting began to write. My name is Lucky Ghost, and when you read the sentence, I am enjoying everything. I am very lucky to have embraced his lap and become his subordinate. This is my highest honor. For this reason, I will complete his instructions even if I cut my heart. But for several days, I searched all over Wutong City, but I couldn't find where the master of the heavenly temple he was looking for was. I began to think that the target had left this supernatural place. I started looking for. I am looking for. I tried my best to find. With the black writing here, the difficulty of writing seems to have increased a lot. Makes prediction difficult. I found it. The target is actually in the human world. He did not appear in the entertainment city, but invaded the human world. The text ends abruptly here. This is the predicted limit of parchment. He is not omniscient and omnipotent, and he cannot learn more information through the triple barriers of the deep ghost world, the horror world, and the human world. However, see here. Shen Jian frowned slightly. The big hand rested directly on the lucky ghost. The pupils turned into a dark color. Bing Bing said, continue to predict and use my ability. The words fell. The parchment trembled violently. Lucky Ghost also found that he couldn't control the sound coming out of his mouth. Ah! Great and noble Lord of the Underworld, Lord of the Underworld, your help is the greatest recognition for this humble servant of mine. Even if I die for this, I will help you. I began to discover that his target appeared in the human world, and he was followed by more than a dozen ghosts and gods, and they invaded the human world together. And I also know that the only one with this ability is that crazy woman. He took away some of her authority, and she knew she couldn't get it back, so that mad woman planned to invade the human world and occupy the underworld. Thriller Games also participated. They joined forces to seize the target, allowing the great lord of the underworld to stay in the supernatural place, and blocking all his perceptions of the real world. A bold plan was executed so quietly. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 677. When Shen Jian put his hand on the lucky ghost, he began to use the divine power of the king of hell to provide precognition to the parchment. The parchment trembled. At this moment, he got rid of the supernatural restrictions of being a parchment scroll and floated into Shen Jian's hands. The appearance of lines of black writing showed the excitement in his heart. But it was still Lucky Ghost who spoke. This Ghost King became the medium of communication with the parchment. In the view of the parchment, displaying text on the parchment for Shen Jian to read was a kind of blasphemy to the Lord of the Underworld. God should be high and uncontaminated by all things. But now, however, he got help from God and raised the upper limit of his prediction. In a moment of excitement, he disrespectfully floated onto God and bathed in God's grace. This honor made him unable to help himself. Lucky Ghost's expression also became vivid. "Ah! Great, sacred, and noble Lord of the underworld, nothing in the world can escape your final sanction. Your eyes are like the eyes of gods hanging in the world, eternal and everlasting, patrolling the world all the time. When you open your eyes, everything revives, when you close your eyes, everything dies. Any ghost can only close his eyes and wait for death under your eyes. Your personality is above all else. You are the greatest existence in the world. This crazy woman is seeking her own destruction and self-destruction." With Shen Jian's blessing, the writing speed of parchment finally recovered. Line after line of black writing. There seemed to be endless words to praise the Lord of the Underworld and the Lord of the Underworld in front of him. Shen Jian. Although he was also curious about how many words this dog-licking paper could boast about, he had no intention of listening to it right now. This world-weary ghost actually dared to steal his home. To be honest, Shen Jian had never thought of this possibility. If it hadn't been for the parchment to remind him, he would never have thought that world-weary ghosts and gods would be so bold as to secretly choose to invade the human world in an attempt to occupy the underworld while he, the Lord of the Underworld, was still alive. She is too bold. In other words, it's crazy. And this one. The thriller game also contributed a lot. If the chat interface hadn't been blocked by the horror game, when the world-weary ghosts and gods chose to invade the human world, he would have received private messages from Daxia Lonke or the living beings of the underworld. In that case, the other party's plan will be ruined. Now think about it. When he was in the God Burial Valley, the words "you will regret it" said by the world-weary ghost and god were not words made out of anger, but a plan. The adjustments to the thriller game are just paving the way for the invasion of world-weary ghosts and gods. Perhaps because he could tell that Shen Jian was in a bad mood at the moment, Parchment's dog-licking remarks were slightly less frequent. "I got his help. Only then did I realize that the reason why the crazy woman captured the target he was looking for was to trap him in a supernatural place and delay it for as long as possible. During this period, with the help of horror games, she launched the largest wave of ghosts in history. Fierce ghosts were like water, pouring into the human world from all directions, and catastrophe was imminent. But they forgot a key role, that is me, the equally great Lord Parchment. Through precognition, I let the great him know the mad woman's plan in advance. They failed. The moment the great Lord of the Underworld understood their plans, their defeat was a foregone conclusion. Even if the mad woman uses all the power and foundation she has cultivated, she can only perish in front of the Supreme One. Hear these things. Although Lucky Ghost couldn't control his words, his heart was already filled with turmoil. The world-weary ghost and god plans to mobilize the power and heritage of the entire entertainment city to invade a human world that has no effect on her? In his opinion, world-weary ghosts and gods are the sole rulers of the entertainment city. There are countless supernatural places under his command. Many of these supernatural places have the difficulty of reaching 5-star movies, and there are quite a few of them. Just now, the parchment also said that more than a dozen ghosts and gods came to the human world together, which means that at least a dozen 5-star supernatural places also came. A 5-star supernatural place has more than tens of thousands of ghosts. Even in an artificially bred 5-star supernatural land, the number of ghosts will not be much less. Especially in this supernatural place like the one he stayed in, the entire Wutong city had a population of more than 30,000. Even if the ghosts and gods who controlled this place could only mobilize 1/10, the number would still be more than 3,000. How many ghosts are gathered in more than a dozen 5-star supernatural places? More than 50,000. Moreover, this is only the number of ghosts that can be gathered in the 5-star supernatural land. If we add other 2-star, 3-star, and 4-star supernatural places. The lucky ghost swallowed his saliva. 100,000. This is a ghost tide with at least 100,000 fierce ghosts united. In addition, there are more than a dozen ghosts and gods, as well as top ghost kings of all sizes. With such power, let alone a 5-star supernatural land, even a 6-star one must be destroyed obediently. When the world-destroying ghosts and gods came, their scalp was numb and they turned around and left. And now, the world-weary ghosts and gods actually used such overwhelming power to invade a human world. This was so unexpected. And the reason why he did this was all because of the man in front of him. Even if he has been trapped here, he still needs to mobilize a wave of 100,000 ghosts to seize this underworld. This level of struggle has far exceeded the limit of his imagination. Just thinking about it made his legs and feet weak and his whole body trembled. Subconsciously, the lucky ghost glanced at Shen Jian from the corner of his eye. He wanted to see how the he in the parchment's mouth, the so-called Lord of the Underworld, the god who cannot be looked directly at, would react after learning about the ghost tide on this scale. Is it like morning and air? Or dignified? Or is it hard to decide? Next moment, Lucky Ghost was stunned. Because he saw an inexplicable excitement on Shen Jian's face. He rubbed his eyes. Look again. That's right, it's excitement. Lucky Ghost? No. You are so excited. This is a ghost tide. It was a ghost wave launched by more than 100,000 fierce ghosts. If one is not good, it would not be surprising if the human world is destroyed. In this case, why are you riding a horse with a weird smile on your face? Are you crazy? The more evil ghosts there are, the more excited you become. What's wrong? He looked puzzled. The other side. After Shen Jian read the description on the parchment, his expression became solemn for a moment, and then he seemed to have thought of something. According to his original plan, after he is done with this place, he will go directly to the third place, Luo Fengtian, which is the city of entertainment, to overturn this place and find out the world-weary ghosts and gods and the protagonists she has trained. But now, the invasion of world-weary ghosts and gods gave him a better choice. He can completely recover the complete authority without damaging the third part of Luo Fengtian. He only had to deal with the world-weary ghosts and the dozens of ghosts and gods she had brought, as well as the supernatural land behind them, and the third place, Luo Fengtian, would fall into his hands without any accident. Think of this. There was a strange luster in Shen Jian's eyes. Asked, are the complete authority of Taisha Liangshi Sek's heavenly palace in the human world? He estimated that the dozens of ghosts and gods that invaded the human world were the ones with authority trained by world-weary ghosts and gods, the so-called protagonists. The opponent's calculation was indeed good. Without Luo Fengtian's full authority over the third place, he would choose to occupy this place while the underworld is still in the development stage. But among them, the thriller game should have given a lot of information. Otherwise, the world-weary ghosts and gods, the former lord of Luo Fengtian, would never dare to do such crazy things as invade the underworld. It seems the exploration of the thriller game during this period still revealed the shortcomings of the underworld. Even if the current underworld can stop the ghost tide of 100,000 people, it will definitely return to before the reconstruction, even worse than before the reconstruction. As for the Daxialanke in the real world, Shen Jian shook his head. Whether Daxialanke has 100,000 ghost masters is a question. Not to mention those who can be gathered here are at the red level at least, and the majority of the troops should be above the Ghost King level. If the ghost tide of this kind of lineup cannot be stopped by one person, the eastern continent will fall completely, and the western continent will not be much better. Hearing Shen Jian's words, Lucky Ghost continued to speak uncontrollably, praise you, the wise lord of the underworld. No truth in the world can escape your eyes that are as insightful as the blazing Sunday. I, who have a trace of the true spirit of Tasha's heavenly palace, can see that the authority to collapse is all in the human world, waiting for your recovery. Tasha's heavenly palace should be bathed in your grace again. Underneath, return to the embrace of the underworld. Hear this answer. Shen Jian smiled. He was originally worried that world-weary ghosts and gods might be cunning enough to hide part of their authority. But now it seems that the other party is a stud. Apparently, the world-weary ghosts and gods also know that there are only two possibilities for this move, success or failure. Once she fails, she will not be able to escape the pursuit of the underworld. To this end, she used all her strength. A true outpouring of force. Even if she hadn't been able to completely command all the ghosts in the entertainment city, she might not be able to help but let the entertainment city come directly to the real world. In this case, the human world can only usher in destruction. She couldn't do it, and the horror game probably couldn't do it either. Think of this. Shen Jian stood up. His eyes fell on the game board. Return. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 678. Return. When all the information is placed in front of Shen Jian, everything will become clear, and what he has to do now is to return to the real world. At this point, it's something that thriller games can't stop. Otherwise, horror game would not just block his chat interface and keep him in the dark, but would directly forcibly cancel his return permission, leaving him trapped here for the rest of his life. Are thriller games soft-hearted? No, it can't be done. The horror game has a super authority manager who is responsible for monitoring and controlling the 12 areas of the horror world and the deep ghost realm. Shen Jian knows this. After all, he himself is the manager of Nanjiang district. He has 5% of the authority of the horror game, and through this authority, he knows that there is a manager in the 12 areas of the horror world, each of which has 5% of the authority. Managers can also kill each other and snatch other permissions. The so-called super authority manager should be the one who controls the other 40% of authority. It can be said that this person is a well-deserved authority dog in the horror world. The power is quite large. But even so, the other party still cannot deprive the player of its normal rights. This is the underlying logic of thriller games. Not allowed to change. If you want to change this, I'm afraid only an administrator with 100% authority can do it. Because of this, thriller games only blocked his chat interface, and because they were afraid that he would become suspicious, they directly banned all players' communications. The same goes for world-weary ghosts and gods. Capture the protagonist Lin Yan and let him stay in the dungeon for a short time to buy her enough time to invade the human world. Shen Jian's eyes were dark. There was an inexplicable coldness in his pupils. At the same time, a row of scarlet panels emerged. This round of game has ended. Congratulations to the player for clearing the School Beauty's personal bodyguard copy. The copy is being settled. Rating, S+. Experience gained, 1000%. Note, you have been promoted to level 60. Items obtained, Thriller Coin *50,000. Get special rewards, 5-star copy permissions. Note, since the player is the 12th human being to reach level 60, he has obtained higher permissions and the data has been refreshed. Players can no longer enter dungeons below the 5-star dungeon. Each time you participate in a 5-star dungeon, you will be granted a 3-year gap period. Multiple permissions, please explore by yourself. Get special rewards, 10% access to the entertainment city. Note, due to the outstanding performance of the player, you have automatically become a shareholder of Entertainment City and can mobilize all resources of Entertainment City with no more than 10% share on your own. Get special reward, Revenge of World-Weary Ghosts and Gods. Note, if a player steals permissions that do not belong to him, the favorability of world-weary ghosts and gods towards you will reach -80, and the hatred value of the supernatural land under his command will reach -100. As the scarlet panel flashed by, Shen Jian opened his eyes. Already back to the real world. The location is an abandoned movie theater. There have been rumors before that ghosts appeared and it was a supernatural place. It was this method that he used to activate the supernatural powers left by world-weary ghosts and gods, and was transported to the copy of Entertainment City. Now naturally I am back here. He remembered that this should be one of the cities in Nanlin province. It is the next stage of expansion target of the underworld. Ziping province is adjacent to Handong province and Bihai province, and Nanlin province is the last province bordering Ziping province. Yes, is he a human? At this time, a voice sounded from the corner of the cinema. But before he finished speaking, his mouth seemed to be covered. Shen Jian looked around. You can faintly hear another voice. The voice is very low, as if trying to suppress your own decibels. Are you crazy? Can the thing that suddenly appears here at this time be a human being? But, sister, he is very clean and looks like a celebrity. How can a ghost be like this? This seems to be a pair of sisters. Hiding in the corner of an abandoned movie theater, it's like taking refuge. Come out. Shen Jian said, I'm not a ghost, but you really attracted ghosts. The words fell. The scene became quiet. You can hear the needle drop. Sudden. Tick-tock. 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 The sound of running water suddenly sounded. In the abandoned theater, the ceiling became gray, and there was a faint drop of water condensing, as if a water pipe was leaking above and the wall was dripping. Tick-tock. The water dripped slowly. In just a moment, there was more water on the ceiling, covering it with a thick layer, condensing on the ceiling as if ignoring gravity, which was very strange. The two sisters hiding in the corner looked up in horror. I found that the water dripping from my head was gray and had a vague stench. Then, a hand reached out. It was a hand soaked in water, highly rotten and bloated. Ah! Two screams of astonishing decibels sounded. Immediately afterwards, two girls wearing high school uniforms rushed out from the corner. His eyes were filled with fear. He screamed at Shen Jian, I was killed by you. If you dare to show up so arrogantly at this time, you must be attracting ghosts. Apparently, they also discover that the real ghost comes from the ceiling. Shen Jian's reaction was as if he was frightened and stood there blankly. The older sister was furious. This man was quite handsome, more handsome than the various male celebrities her sister had chased, but what was the use of being handsome at a time like this? A man who was frightened out of his wits by a supernatural incident. I really don't know how he is still alive today. Just thinking about it, my sister subconsciously wanted to take Shen Jian's hand and run away. But suddenly I saw it. Shen Jian, who was originally frightened, suddenly raised a finger. An extremely solid light shot out like a laser and penetrated directly through the sewage on the ceiling. The water ghost who was just about to stick out his head was shot directly in the head and fell down. He looked at Shen Jian with eyes wide open. Water ghost? He was confused. Who I am? Where am I? Where am I going? Why did I die when I stepped on a horse? It's too grassy. After all, I am a red-clad fierce ghost. Can you give me a chance to show off? I haven't done anything yet. It's such an injustice. With this kind of resentment, the water ghost died on the spot. At this time, the theater was also quiet. The sister who was about to grab Shen Jian's hand and prepare to leave suddenly froze, and then looked at Shen Jian as if she had seen a ghost. Ghost, dead. What happened? Doesn't the official say that ghosts are unkillable, and that we should run away quickly when we encounter a ghost? If we can't escape, we should try to find the ghost's killing pattern? So what is this? What did that man just do? Big eyes stared into small eyes. Shen Jian took back his hand and said expressionlessly, "Okay, tell me, what exactly happened here?" "Hear this." The two sisters' eyes widened even more. He looked at Shen Jian as if he were an alien. "You do not know. What do you know?" Seeing that Shen Jian didn't seem to be playing tricks on them, my sister seemed to remember something and exclaimed, "Brother, are you a player?" Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. There is no supernatural fluctuation in the body of this pair of sisters, and there is no yin-qi reaction, which can rule out the possibility that they have been exposed to supernatural events. Logically speaking, ordinary people like this don't know players. Shen Jian nodded slightly. "That's right, sister, the way Big Brother appeared just now, wasn't it the official arrival of a player? I just said, Big Brother doesn't look like a ghost," my sister said excitedly. "He's like a star-chasing fan." The elder sister also had a hint of surprise in her eyes. You are a ghost master, are you here to save us?" Shen Jian's frown deepened. Daxia Longke takes the initiative to disclose information about players, ghost masters, etc. There is only one possibility: the impact of supernatural events has spread to the point where it cannot be concealed. And Daxia Longke still cannot solve it. So I made this information public, hoping that some lucky people could become ghost masters and resist supernatural events. In other words, Longke Mountain in Daxia has run out of resources. Just like the end of the world, it is impossible to determine whether humans are dead or alive. Choosing to announce the truth can be regarded as the last dignity of mankind. Think of this. Shen Jian immediately understood how bad the situation was. At this time, my sister recovered from the surprise and explained, "You are a player who has just returned from the thriller game. It is normal not to know the situation. Nanlin province has fallen. 5 days ago, ghosts that only existed in legends came to Nanlin province. In just 2 days, the entire province was occupied by ghosts. Now they are attacking Ziping province, and the city we are in, Ligui, it's so rampant that there's no one alive on the street. Most of the people were picked up by the officials, but there are still a small number of people like us who didn't catch up and were forced to stay in the city, struggling to survive." During this period, the official headquarters disclosed a series of information on horror games, players, ghost hunters, etc. through radio, television, and other channels, telling us how to avoid being targeted by ghosts and how to escape the ghosts' killing pattern. Speaking of which, fear remained in both sisters' eyes. We all know that Nanlin province has become a paradise for ghosts, a dead city with the pause button pressed. Officials can't get in, and we can't get out. Sooner or later, we will also be targeted by ghosts, and eventually died by a supernatural event. You are here, are you from Daxia Longke in Nanlin province? The two sisters looked forward to it. It was like grabbing the last straw and holding onto it. Hear this. Shen Jian's face immediately darkened. He knew it was going to be bad. But I didn't expect it to be this bad. This must have been the invasion location chosen by the villain from the thriller game. If he wanted to invade the underworld and Qingxi in the middle of Ziping province, he had to pass through other cities first. Among them, Handong province and Bihai province had more than 10,000 underworld agents involved in patrol work. There are also nearly 3,000 undercover patrols in Ziping province, which is the most difficult line of defense to break through. Only Nanlin province was temporarily stranded by him due to insufficient numbers of yin difference. At the moment. Instead, it became a flaw in the underworld. Regarding this, the world-weary ghosts and gods definitely don't know. The more I think about it, Shen Jian's eyes became darker and darker. His eyes returned to the two sisters in front of him. There are no ghosts here anymore, you stay here. Say it. Shen Jian turned and left. Brother, where are you going? It's very dangerous outside. There are ghosts everywhere. Even if you are a ghost master, you can't get out. Go kill people. Shen Jian left. His body transformed into a rainbow. The sound rippled throughout the 9 heavens and 10 places. This scene. The two sisters were completely stunned. Sister, eldest brother is a god. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chigua. Chapter 679. Daxialonke Headquarters. At this time, the atmosphere in the conference room fell into deathly silence. Commanders, big and small, and high-level members gathered together. Here were the commanders from all the first-tier cities in the entire Dragon Kingdom. Once something went wrong, the entire Dragon Kingdom would be paralyzed. However, it was such a group of people who stood at the pinnacle of power in the Dragon Kingdom. At this time, their faces showed an unconcealable helplessness, and they were all silent. How's the situation? At this time, someone asked. A hoarse voice sounded. It was Qian Quan, the commander of Qingxi. He is clearly only in his 30s, and with his clean hair, he has the energy of a 70-year-old man, and his haggard face makes him look 20 years older. It's a bad situation. In just 2 days, all 8 cities in Nanlin province fell and turned into ghost caves. According to clues detected by satellites, the number of ghosts is at least 100,000. The Daxialonke branch of Nanlin province also finally a message was sent back, saying that a 2-dimensional passage leading to the horror world was opened, and its source came from here. At the same time, our people also sent back information. Among the hundreds of thousands of fierce ghosts, none of them have a terror level lower than the red-clothed level. Most of them have reached the Ghost King level or even higher. Obviously, this is not just a single supernatural place that has turned into a copy, but a large-scale invasion of the horror world. The number of evil ghosts mobilized has far exceeded the scope of a single horror world game area. I am afraid there are 12. Even if we take away half of the high-end combat power from a certain area, we won't be able to put together such a lineup. Hear this amount. Everyone present fell silent. 100,000 ghost tides, which city can withstand such a force? To know. In the real world, even a single supernatural event, as long as the danger level reaches level A or above, can cause panic enough to plunge a city into chaos. And this only requires a red-clothed ghost that can move and whose killing patterns are easily triggered. Further up, there are S-level supernatural events caused by Ghost King-level ghosts. This is almost the upper limit of the level of ghosts that can descend into the real world in the horror world. But on top of S-level supernatural events, there are SS-level and SSS-level supernatural events. This level of disaster is the difficulty of judgment designed by Daxialonke for the Ghost Tide. If more than 10 Ghost King level ghosts move together, they will automatically be upgraded to SS level. If there are more than 100 Ghost Kings, they are considered to be SSS level. But in fact, large-scale ghost disasters rarely occur in the Dragon Kingdom. The few times it happened were quickly resolved and there was no time to spread. But this time is different. A wave of 100,000 ghosts, even if they were all red-clad ghosts, would be enough to bring down the Dragon Kingdom, not to mention that most of them were still Ghost Kings. Even the Ghost Masters in the entire Dragon Kingdom could not deal with more than 20 powerful ghosts of this level. 20 versus 100,000. How desperate! I'm afraid even the legendary ghosts and gods would be drowned in such a disaster. Where's the underworld? Another voice sounded. The voice was full of expectations. As if expecting something. However, Qian Quan's words broke his illusion. Underworld has no time to take care of us. It has been 5 days since the disaster broke out, and Nanlin province has only persisted for 2 days. Who do you think is resisting in the remaining 3 days? If it weren't for Underworld, these 3 days would be enough. Let 2 more provinces turn into ghost caves. Even the Underworld can't stop such a wave of ghosts. The person who spoke earlier fell back into his position. The tone was full of disbelief. The Underworld in myths and legends, the end of the dead souls, and the place of 6 reincarnations. Such a mythical force cannot resist the invasion of the horror world. At this time, the ancient instructor of the demon city said with difficulty, "There is no doubt that the underworld is very strong, but in this era, the underworld has only just recovered in less than 2.5 years. Even the number of city gods is not much, and the king of hell has only recovered. Now that I've married someone, do you think this is the underworld in its heyday?" Hearing the words Lord of Hell, everyone had a stress reaction. They are all leaders in major first-tier cities, and they have heard about the deeds of King Yama for a long time. That is the first resurrected king of hell in the underworld. He is also the first god to appear on earth. His name is known to everyone in the world. Everyone from the 80-year-old man to the literate child knows him. The myth of King Yama is also unique in the history of the Dragon Kingdom. If it were this man, there might be hope. Where has he gone? If he is here, we can definitely unite with Daxia and the remaining living forces in the underworld to minimize the losses. Qian Quan shook his head and said, "Since the thriller game entered the adjustment stage and the chat interface became unavailable, no one can contact him. He disappeared. No one knows where he went, what he encountered, and when he came back." Hear the words. The little fighting spirit that everyone had just raised was ruthlessly destroyed. Then what to do now? We have supported Nanlin province and Ziping province to the maximum extent, but our power is completely useless in the face of the ghost tide. The ghost controllers and support personnel sent can do everything but evacuate the residents. No, if the defense line of the underworld collapses, then the world will be over. More and more people started to argue. Some people proposed the use of destructive weapons, namely nuclear bombs. Even though they know that human weapons are ineffective against evil spirits, they can die with them in the most honorable way. Qian Quan sighed. Nuclear bomb, this is indeed the last dignity of mankind. Once the underworld is captured, not to mention the Dragon Kingdom, even the entire eastern continent will become a breeding ground for evil spirits. In this case, there is almost no difference between human beings and being destroyed. This is an environment worse than nuclear winter. If it cannot be stopped, then the entire human civilization and the evil ghosts will be dragged to death together, and the evil ghosts will lose the soil and environment to breed. Perhaps as time goes by, the existence of the evil ghosts will slowly disappear. By then, the surviving post-disaster humans on this land can revive human civilization in 100 or 1,000 years. Think of this. Qian Quan's eyes became silent again. "Mr. Shen, where are you?" The words just fell. A faint voice sounded. "You're looking for me?" "Just in time, I'm looking for you too." The words fell. Shen Jian appeared at the highest meeting of Daxia headquarters. His eyes glowed with a faint light. There is some indescribable depth hidden deep in the pupils. Moment. There was dead silence. Some people's expressions changed greatly. This is the headquarters of Daxia. Even a fly flying in will trigger the alarm, let alone a ghost. However, this person appeared here silently. Doesn't this mean that if he wants, he can kill them at any time before they can react? The other part is surprised. They looked at the man who had appeared mysteriously. He has black hair and black eyes, with clear and handsome features, and the black pupils are shining with a dark luster. A blood-stained hemp rope hangs from his wrist, which adds a bit of weirdness. This outfit looks so familiar. A bit like the living Buddha player mentioned in the Supernatural forum. That is, the city leader of Qing City, a top ghost controller named Shen Jian. And this person seems to have another identity. Mr. Shen. At this time, Qian Quan also stood up suddenly. The range of his movements was so large that he overturned the chair beneath him. The ancient instructor from Magic City also stood up excitedly. There were 3 parts of shock, 3 parts of excitement, and 4 parts of ecstasy on his face. Mr. Shen, you finally came out. Neither of them expected that Shen Jian would appear at such a critical moment. They have never doubted Shen Jian's strength, let alone that a prince of hell has thoughts of escaping or retreating from battle. They speculated that Shen Jian either did not get the news in the thriller game, or that he was deep in the underworld, planning to revive the other ghosts and gods in the underworld. Thinking. Shen Jian glanced at the hundreds of people present. No cover-up either. He said directly, "Tell me the situation, what's going on in the underworld?" He did not choose to return to the underworld, but came to the Daxialanke headquarters. Because he knew that the power of the underworld was only limited to the 3 surrounding provinces, and even in terms of intelligence exploration, it could only cover Ziping province and a few cities, which was far less comprehensive than the intelligence of Daxialanke. I see. Qian Quan said excitedly, according to the intelligence we currently have, 8 cities in Nanlin province have fallen, and the 2 cities bordering Ziping province have become the center of the fighting. The remaining 6 cities have completely become ghost caves and are regarded as a breeding ground for cultivating evil ghosts. Because of this, the number of evil ghosts is increasing. On the underworld side, 3 city gods led tens of thousands of evil spirits to resist tenaciously. But the decline is very obvious. Not only because the number of people on one side of the horror world is 10 times that of the underworld, but also because there are too many ghosts and gods on the opposite side. Even though 6 ghosts and gods have been separated in other cities in Nanlin province, the number of ghosts and gods fighting against the underworld is still more than 9. The 3 city gods each fight against 3 ghosts and gods, and there is no way they can join the battlefield. And our people, at most, can help to clear up the staff, but they can't participate at all. Qian Quan said quickly. Today, time is life. An extra minute to liberate a city can save hundreds of people. No delay. After listening, Shen Jian was thoughtful. In other words, in addition to the main battlefield of the underworld confrontation, there are still 6 cities that no one has taken over. Qian Quan smiled bitterly. Yes, each of these 6 cities is led by a ghost and god, and there is at least one lineup from a 5-star supernatural place under his command. While they are sweeping the cities, they are also transforming humans into human beings to the greatest extent possible. Li Gui, fill the gap. If they wait until they completely occupy the 6 cities, the number of ghosts will probably exceed 500,000, or even millions. Hear this number. Everyone shuddered. A wave of ghosts numbering in the millions, even the largest war in human history, would not have this kind of lineup. And the advantages of ghosts are too obvious compared to humans. A wave of millions of ghosts could flood the world without any problem. Shen Jian listened. Self-mumbling. 7 locations are just enough. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 680. At this time, Daxialanke headquarters fell into deathly silence. They are all commanders of first-tier cities. In ancient dynasties, they were the existence of princes. In the cities under their jurisdiction, they were basically the emperors. However, at this moment, their faces were ashen. It was broad daylight, but I felt unusually cold. The blood all over his body seemed to be frozen. Everyone was frightened by the numbers Qian Quan said. 500,000, or even 1,000,000 ghosts, this is such a desperate number of words. War on this scale is rare in ancient times. It is reported that the largest war in history was when Emperor Sui Yang personally led a million-strong army to attack Goguryeo, investing a total of more than 1 million troops. But humans are different from ghosts. In a war in which humans invest millions of troops, there may be less than 300,000 to 400,000 soldiers who can actually fight, and the rest are just cannon fodder and logistics. However, the tide of 1 million ghosts is truly a million ghosts that can only kill people. Even though most of the transformed ghosts are low-level ghosts below the green-clothed level or even the white-clothed level, for ordinary people, there is not much difference between the red-clothed level ghosts and the white-clothed level ghosts. After all, their supernatural powers are fatal to humans. Think of this. Deep despair appeared in the eyes of all the senior officials. They finally figured out that this man was the city leader of Qing City, named Shen Jian. He had an excellent reputation on the supernatural forum, and his reputation surpassed all the players. He was called the living Buddha among ghost controllers. But this is only the surface identity of the other party. Judging from the respectful but excited expressions of Qian Quan and Gu Instructor, there is no doubt that this man is related to the underworld. He is the first god to be resurrected from the underworld. At the same time, it is also the most widely circulated existence, the lord of the fifth palace of Yama in the 10 palaces, King Yama. 5 days ago. When the horror game invades, if this lord of hell shows up, everything will be possible in time, but it is already the 5th day of the horror game invasion. 8 cities in Nanlin province have been occupied and turned into ghost caves. Even if the Lord of Hell showed up, it would already be too late. After all, he is alone, incapable of doing anything else. No matter which city he chooses to support, the remaining populations of the other cities will be wiped out. Not to mention, he is the king of hell in the underworld. It is natural to choose to support the main battlefield of the underworld and the horror game. In other words, people in the remaining 6 cities in Nanlin province are still isolated and helpless. A rough estimate is that the number of stranded residents in the 6 cities is at least 5 million. 5 million people died. What is this concept? No one could have imagined the consequences. Because of this level of casualties, Longguo had no budget at all. Think of this possibility. The atmosphere on the court became even more depressing. A long time. Qian Quan said in a difficult tone, "Mr. Shen, I leave everything to you. We will try our best to delay the remaining 6 cities in Nanlin province. We also hope that Mr. Shen can repel the enemy as soon as possible." He didn't say much. Even if he is King Yama of the underworld, a god who only exists in legends, he still has limits. Shen Jian is alone, and it is impossible for him to ask the other party to launch a rescue operation for the entire Nanlin province at the same time. This is simply fanciful. He only hoped that Shen Jian's joining could defeat the invasion on the main battlefield as soon as possible, freeing up his hands to suppress the ravages of ghosts and gods in other cities. During this period, everything can only be left to Daxia Lonke. Hear this. Shen Jian was slightly startled. You guys. Delaying time. Among the 7 battlefields, in addition to the main battlefield invaded by world-weary ghosts and gods, the remaining 6 cities are all occupied by 5-star supernatural lands led by a ghost and god. This kind of lineup may have gathered the power of half the great Xia Lonke. I can barely resist it. With all the calculations, Daxia Lonke's limit is only 2 or 3 cities. Qian Quan said firmly, the great Xia Lonke was born to resist the evil ghosts. Every member has this awareness. We will organize people nationwide to invest in these cities to attract the attention of the evil ghosts and delay time. In fact, we have already been doing this kind of thing, otherwise we would not be able to urgently evacuate ordinary people to the city where ghosts are raging. But this time is different. We have hope, and the road ahead is no longer dark. I just hope, Mr. Shen, you can come as soon as possible. We don't have many people left. Qian Quan bowed deeply. Please, Mr. Shen. Pain flashed in the eyes of the ancient instructor, and he also bowed 90 degrees, because his son also voluntarily entered Nanlin province. Please. More and more people stood up. They are the commanders of major cities. Their families, friends, partners, and even comrades in arms also voluntarily entered Nanlin province to attract the attention of the evil spirits and buy time for ordinary people to evacuate. The longer it takes, the less likely it is to survive. Now, the only hope lies in Shenjian. See this. A bit of surprise flashed in Shenjian's eyes. Voluntarily entering Nanlin province to attract the attention of evil ghosts is a real attempt to die. Anyone who dares to enter these ghost caves has already put life and death at risk. It can be said. After this battle, at least half of the Daxia Dragon Bird members nationwide would have to die to achieve the delay that Jian Quan said. I see. Shenjian nodded slightly. He didn't say much. Jian Quan's actions were not stopped. Because we need people to clean up the mess. The words fell. Shenjian disappeared on the spot. When it reappears, it has reached an altitude of 10,000 meters. He looked far away in the direction of Nanlin province, his eyes twinkling. Then, a golden wheel with 6 sides and corners appeared behind Shenjian. Each of the 6 edges and corners shows a blank area. The first area is engraved with an angel with golden wings spread out, the body of an angel and the head of a devil. The second area is engraved with an exotic woman. There are shadows around her, and 6 figures seem to be faintly revealed behind her. Come on, my past and future body. Shenjian raised his hand. The golden wheel is fixed on the supernatural power of Cleopatra. This moment, he has the complete supernatural existence of Cleopatra. This is the clerical ability of the wheel-turning king, the lord of the 10th palace of Yama. The words fell. The void trembled. There are ripples in the space, and supreme terrifying fluctuations are spreading. The next second, a person walked out of the ripples of the void. He has black hair and dark eyes, and his facial features are exactly the same as Shenjian's, but there is no blood-stained hemp rope on his wrist. Immediately afterwards, it's the second one, the third one. This is the past. It's Shenjian's real body that came out in the past 3 days. Then continue. 3 figures also walked out of the ripples in the void on the right. The same black hair and dark eyes, the same appearance, the only difference is the blood-stained hemp rope that disappeared from his wrist. This is the true form for the next 3 days. Coupled with the fact that he was the source of the supernatural, 7 Shenjian's eyes met together at an altitude of 10,000 meters in an area where no one could observe. Unlike incarnations, these 7 people are all true entities. There is no question of who is true and who is false. The only difference is that Shenjian, who has the blood-stained hemp rope, is now. The rest only exists in the past and future. Let's go. This world is small, so small that it can only accommodate the underworld. But this world is so big that the underworld will exist all over the world. The 7 figures each disappeared in place, running towards the 7 major battlefields in Nanlin province. Luteng City, Nanlin province. In front of a house. With a pop sound, a young man wearing a Daxia dragon bird vomited blood from his mouth, with several pieces of internal organs mixed in the blood. His name is Feng Cheng, and he is one of the members of Daxia Longke in Luteng City, Nanlin province. He is not only a 3-star player of the thriller game, but also a ghost controller. However, he has only controlled 1 ghost and is not very strong. Beside him, there was a family of 6 following him. The young man wiped the blood, and his defeated face proved that he was at the end of his strength, but he still managed to hold on to his strength and lead the family of 6 to a safe area. Just now, He provoked an extremely terrifying red-clothed ghost and used all his supernatural powers to finally get rid of the red-clothed ghost and lead ordinary people to escape. "Brother, are you okay?" The family of 6 looked at the young man with worried faces. The youngest boy took his hand and asked. "Fine." A forced smile appeared on Feng Cheng's face. Ever since the destruction of the Daxia branch in Luteng City, he had put life and death aside. In the confrontation just now, he had used his supernatural power to the limit, and it was not far away from the resurrection of the evil ghost. Soon, he came to a stone door. Press the button and a passage to the underground is opened. "Come in, it's safe here now." He knows. It was already difficult to get support from several cities in Nanlin province. The only thing he could do now was to follow the instructions from the headquarters and try to evacuate ordinary people to designated safe areas. By then, the headquarters will send people over to take away ordinary people from these designated locations. It can be regarded as retaining the last single seedlings in Luteng City. "Brother, won't you go in?" The little boy held Feng Cheng's hand and asked curiously. "Big brother still needs to save people, but Big brother promises you that when everything is over, I will treat you to ice cream." The hook. "Okay, hook up." Feng Cheng smiled and completed the agreement. However, as he watched the little boy's family enter safety, a series of terrifying supernatural threats enveloped the entire place. "GGG, it turns out that you humans have hidden people in these places, as well as supernatural props that block the perception of ghosts. It seems that this city has also gained a lot of benefits in the thriller game." In an instant, one ghost after another appears. The leader is a man wearing a gas mask and a white coat. From the transparent material of the gas mask, you can clearly see half of this man's face with a crazy smile. There was also a boning knife in his hand. And his level of terror is that of ghosts and gods. Behind him, the dense crowd of ghosts also stared with scarlet eyes, like madmen, staring at Feng Cheng and the stone gate behind him. This moment, Feng Chengru was struck by lightning. Little did he know, he was being followed. And his wrong judgment attracted the ghosts and gods that were raging in the city. "It's over." But what he didn't see was that a figure was also looking at him 10,000 meters above him. "Found it? Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace." Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigua. Chapter 681. Chapter 677. Your name is on the Book of Life and Death. King Qin Guang. Green Vine City. Safe base. A local Daxia dragon bird member named Feng Cheng looked at the scene on the street as if he were mourning for his heir. There are many ghosts and shadows on the street, and the evil spirit is sweeping across. The climate that was originally clear and clear became gloomy at this moment. An atmosphere of depression and despair is spreading. Ghost. The streets are full of ghosts. Some of these ghosts were wearing white coats, and some were wearing blue hospital gowns. The only thing they have in common is the crazy smiles on their faces. Like a madman. And the reality is exactly the same. According to Feng Cheng's understanding, the 5-star supernatural place that has descended on Luteng City is called the Madhouse. The man wearing a gas mask and holding a boning knife is the director of the Madhouse. A sick experiment between normal and abnormal. One day, this experimental subject overthrew the rule of the Madhouse, made the mentally ill the masters, and spread the idea of madness. Everyone who saw it would eventually become crazy and become a member of the Madhouse. The reason why the Daxia branch in Luteng City was covered overnight was because the director of the lunatic asylum personally took action and spread his ideas to everyone's minds through supernatural means. Then, everyone went crazy. The huge Daxia branch was wiped out so effortlessly. They were the only ones who were on missions outside and survived by luck. But apparently, his luck was over. Being targeted by a ghost who easily destroyed the Daxia Dragon Bird branch in Lutang City, he had no power to resist. Just showing him a cruel smile made him uncontrollably have all kinds of dangerous thoughts in his heart. Think of this. Feng Cheng felt increasingly bitter inside. It didn't matter if he died, since he was about to recover from Li Gui anyway, but he misjudged Li Gui's IQ and brought the potential threat back to the safe base. This time, not only is he going to die, but the survivors hiding in safe areas behind him may not be able to survive either. It's his fault. Thinking. The head director of the lunatic asylum laughed ferociously. Human, I can give you a chance to join us. Come, grab my boning knife, kill the 6 members of the family behind you who are protected by you, and kill the little boy. His father made a vessel, picked out the flesh of his brothers and sisters, and then poured the blood of his mother on it, and a serving of ice cream was completed. As long as you feed that little boy, I will let you all join in and avoid death. Sad sounds echoed in the streets. This made Feng Cheng refresh the level of cruelty of ghosts. It makes people feel extremely cold. He looked at the family of 6 huddled behind him, and then at the ghosts everywhere. He clenched and loosened his fists, loosened them again, and finally hung down helplessly. He is a 3-star player, and he only controls 1 ghost controller. He has no chance of winning against any of the ghosts in the madhouse, let alone hundreds or thousands of them. He couldn't help but look up. A silent roar came from his mouth. Just as he was about to vent his last breath and spatter the opponent with blood, his pupils shrank sharply. Because there seems to be something above the sky. It's human. It's a person. Feng Cheng fell into shock. He knew that he was not mistaken, nor was he hallucinating. It was indeed a person walking towards him in the sky. That figure was walking high in the sky, strolling in the void, as relaxed and carefree as stepping on the earth. In just a moment, this figure had already appeared in everyone's field of vision. The black-haired man with dark eyes stared at the ghosts below with a quiet expression, his eyes especially lingering on the ghost holding the boning knife for the longest time. It was Shen Jian. To be more precise, it is one of Shen Jian's past incarnations. At this time, the director of the lunatic asylum also saw the person coming from the sky. A hint of surprise flashed across the originally ferocious face. With dark eyes and walking in the void, could this be the dangerous person mentioned by the master? No. Is he sick? If you don't go to the main battlefield, why are you here in my rear area? Aren't you afraid of the complete collapse of the underworld's defense line? Or are you saying that I have a grudge against you, and would rather let you suffer heavy losses for your men than come and kill me first? At this time, the ferocious smile on the face of the director of the lunatic asylum turned into a serious one. There is something square inside. If this person is really the target that the master is afraid of, then he is definitely not an opponent. But under normal circumstances, this person would never bypass the main battlefield and appear in the rear. Thinking. The director of the lunatic asylum was the first to yell, "Who are you?" While speaking, the terrifying supernatural threat belonging to ghosts and gods enveloped the entire audience, causing all the ghosts in the audience to be infected and reveal a clown-like smile. "My name is King Qin Guang." Shen Jian spoke calmly. The mouth contains the words of ghosts and gods. Once the word is spoken, it ripples across the 9 heavens and 10 earths. As soon as these words came out, everyone's expressions changed drastically. Especially the humans headed by Feng Cheng were stagnant in place. King Guang of Qin? Yama. Is this the Lord of Hell? They were confused. The legendary underworld really exists, and so does the Lord of Hell. Have they seen God? Their prayers finally paid off. The legendary underworld reappears, and the Lord of Hell appears. Feng Cheng then looked at Shen Jian blankly. Then he showed an excited look. There was a supernatural incident involving the arrival of angels in Ivy City, and rumors about the appearance of King Yama spread a lot. And now, King Qin Guang also came. This is the second resurrected god from the underworld. And King Qin Guang has appeared, so King Yama should also show up. The birth of two great kings of hell might be able to reverse the defeat of Nanlin province. The thought of this, his originally dead soul was rekindled with some hope. The other side. Hearing Shen Jian's words, the face of the director of the lunatic asylum turned from solemn to pale. There was a hint of horror in his expression. As a ghost and god, as the supernatural master of the madhouse in a 5-star supernatural place, and also one of the protagonists trained by world-weary ghosts and gods, he knows the true purpose of world-weary ghosts and gods invading the human world. She also knew that the main reason why the world-weary ghosts and gods launched such a large-scale invasion was because they were afraid that some being would destroy everything she had worked so hard to build. Because she was afraid, she chose to strike first. And that existence is the king of hell in the underworld. At the moment, another king of hell has appeared in the human world. Who provided this false information? I have never heard that there is a second king of hell in the underworld. Is this the underworld's trump card? Too old. Why did it come to me by chance? I must be very lucky. The director of the lunatic asylum roared in his heart, his face uncertain. At this time, Shen Jian spoke again. The voices of ghosts and gods resounded. Your name is on the life and death book, and you are sentenced to death. The words fell. There was a judge's pen in Shen Jian's hand. On the dark pen body, there was a faint pattern of an evil ghost, exuding a cold and mysterious aura. Holding it in your hand, it seems to hold the fate of all things. Whether it is gods, immortals, demons, or Buddhas, they can determine life and death with one stroke. Immediately afterwards, a dark, cold book also appeared in Shen Jian's hands. The pages of the book turned automatically, and each page turned seemed to have witnessed 100 lifetimes of experience. On the back of the book, the words life and death are clearly visible. Holding it in your hand, the fate of all living things in the world is written in it. Just a touch, or even a tear can easily deny a person's existence. At this time, Shen Jian holds the book of life and death on his left hand and the judge's pen on his right hand. What is reflected in his eyes is the fate of the ghosts. King Qin Guang, the master of the first palace of the underworld, specializes in life and death in the human world, and is in charge of good omens in the underworld. He is also the controller of life and death. His clerical ability, the eye of the netherworld, is the eye that can see through all good omens. It is a weakened version of the life and death book. See this. The director of the lunatic asylum opened his pupils and his whole body trembled. There was a sense of déjà vu, as if he was being watched by a terrifying entity. That feeling made his heart palpitate, his scalp numb, and he couldn't help but run away. But he can't run. His intuition told him that Shen Jian could not be allowed to continue. That book and pen could decide his fate at will. No matter how far he ran, it was of no avail. No, stop. The director of the lunatic asylum roared angrily and grabbed the book of life and death in Shen Jian's hand. To this, Shen Jian's expression remained as usual. Under the horrified gaze of the other party, the judge's pen was raised. Instantly, the whole world began to buzz. Scenes of hell in all directions appeared around him. Threads of fate intertwined with the director of the lunatic asylum and manifested themselves in front of everyone. They know. These lines are the life of a ghost. If all the threads of fate are broken, even ghosts and gods will die. No, 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 don't. The horrified voice of the director of the lunatic asylum continued to sound. He stretched out his hand to grab Shen Jian. The next second, the judge's pen in Shen Jian's hand had already written a big X on the page of the opponent's book of life and death. As the last stroke fell, the thread of fate intertwined with the ghost and god of the madhouse director strangely oozed blood, and then broke together. That moment, the figure of the director of the lunatic asylum shattered in mid-air, turn into fragments and dissipate between heaven and earth. Only a heart remains. Shen Jian stretched out his hand. Take the heart. This is one of Luo Fengtian's permissions in the third section, and its completeness is about 7%. This moment, there was total silence. The ghosts looked at Shen Jian with frightened expressions. Their supernatural master, a ghost, and God, was just gone? This is unbelievable. Isn't the human world a group of weak humans? Why would there be a being who can instantly kill ghosts and gods? What on earth is going on with this horse riding? The ghosts fell into panic. Shen Jian took a look. The dark luster in his eyes deepened. With a click of the judge's pen, a top ghost king who was infinitely close to ghosts and gods died silently. With a stroke of the judge's pen, a top ghost king who had escaped 1,000 meters away was reduced to ashes in horror. At this moment, the sky above Greenvine City. Everyone can see a figure holding a book of life and death and a judge's pen, single-handedly deciding the fate of ghosts. Wherever it passed, hundreds of ghosts howled and turned into ashes. Just less than 10 minutes. In the entire Greenvine City, no ghosts survived. And that figure is King Qin Guang, the King of Hell. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the King of Hell of the 10th Palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chi Gua. Chapter 682. Chapter 678, Swallowing Rivers and Seas, Draining a City Dry. King of Shijiang. Daxia Longke Headquarters. Because of Shen Jian's appearance, they regained some hope. He began to focus again on this province that had become a ghost cave and was riddled with holes. In front of the big satellite screen, Instructor Gu came to Qian Quan and said, "Do you think he can solve this ghost disaster?" Qian Quan was silent for a few words. "If he can't do it, then the world will be destroyed. What you should be concerned about now is where he will be rescued." Hear this. The ancient instructor was slightly startled. Do you still need to ask? Of course he chose to go to the main battlefield. If not, he would return to Qingshi to mobilize his forces and prepare to resist the tide of hundreds of thousands of ghosts. I just don't know if he can still create a miracle. Speaking of which, his tone was full of uncertainty. There are 8 cities in Nanlin province. 6 of them each have a ghost and god and a supernatural place with at least a 5-star dungeon difficulty. On the main battlefield, there are more than 9 ghosts and gods, totaling more than 15. To be able to control the source of so many ghosts and gods, just by imagining, you can see how powerful he is. I suspect that behind these ghosts and gods, there is an even more terrifying existence, which is probably the legendary world-destroying ghosts and gods. A ghost of this level has reached the level of a god in terms of strength. Currently, except for him, no other city god can be the opponent of world-destroying ghosts and gods. With so many ghosts and gods joining forces, I'm worried. The ancient instructor hesitated to speak. But everyone could hear his lack of confidence. He was worried that Lord Yama might be defeated. After all, the strength of more than 15 ghosts and gods, plus one possible world-destroying ghost and god, far exceeds what the underworld currently displays. It is not impossible that the Lord of Hell will be defeated and the underworld will be defeated. Think of this possibility. The hopes raised by the senior officials themselves dimmed a bit unconsciously. I also started to worry, if the underworld is defeated, where will this world go? Really? Qian Quan pointed at the satellite map and said, then where do you think he is now? Hear the words. Instructor Gu gave him a strange look. Then he was suddenly startled. From the satellite map, an object passing over Dragon Kingdom at supersonic speed was detected. You don't need to ask to know that the object moving at super high speed is none other than Shenjian. Only. The place he went to was neither the main battlefield nor Qing City, but Luteng City in Nanlin Province. Instructor Gu. He was confused. I don't understand why Shenjian went to Luteng City first. Is there anything special about this place? He wants to deal with the lone ghosts and gods in the rear first? But in this case, he won't have time at all. There are at least 3,000 ghosts wandering in a city. Even if he can kill the leading ghosts and gods, it will be of no use to Luteng City. It's useless and will expose yourself in advance, which is totally worth the loss. The ancient instructor was shocked and confused. I don't understand why Shenjian made this choice. Hurry up and connect the communication in Luteng City. I want to know what he wants to do there. The ancient instructor shouted. Soon. Communication is connected. Another part of the communication came from Daxia Longke personnel who voluntarily entered Luteng City. Their communication facilities were specially modified. Even if they are trapped in the ghost domain, they can only connect the signal by finding the weak point of the ghost domain. Zitsize, zitsize. A lot of noise comes to mind. After a while, a clearer voice appeared. Then, a voice that resounded throughout the 9 heavens and 10 places came from the communication equipment. My name is, King Qin Guang. Qian Quan? Instructor Gu? A group of senior executives. They were all dumbfounded. Qin Guang Wang. Damn it! Isn't the riding horse King Yama? Why has it changed? Could it be that the name King of Yama is just a taboo for you to talk about? In fact, you are King Qin Guang of the first palace of the underworld. Think of this. They are messy. If that's the case, that's too rough. The dignified king of hell actually used a false name. What's the difference between this and borrowing a friend's name to show off? At this moment, they only have one thought in their hearts: is this guy really King Qin Guang? At the same time, Chixia City, Nanlin Province. When Qin Guang Wang Shenjian was still working diligently in Luteng City, one of Shenjian's past incarnations had already arrived in the city of Venice on the water. This is no exaggeration. Because Chixia City was flooded. The entire city was immersed in water, and the water was more than 5 meters high. And the tide continues to rise. I'm afraid it won't be long before the city becomes underwater Atlantis. Shenjian stood high in the sky. Witnessed the rolling river current and the water ghosts floating underwater. He mused. Apparently, this city has become a supernatural place for water ghosts. But a simple water ghost cannot create the supernatural power of flooding a city, unless it is a ghost-level water ghost. No, to be more precise, the leader here is a river god. Only the river god can unleash this devastating natural disaster. Under such a natural disaster, it is undoubtedly difficult for humans to survive. Thinking. The rolling river surged with big waves, accompanied by a sinister laughter. Are you the king of hell that the master mentioned? It doesn't look like much. Others might be afraid of you, but in this city of water, I, the river god, am invincible. Below the ghosts and gods, I am invincible; above the ghosts and gods, I am worthy. King of hell, do you dare to enter the water and fight me? The words fell. The river god formed an entity from the river flow. The skin is gray and blue, and there are small cracks all over the face, because this is an entity he made with clay. Even if it is destroyed, he will not feel bad. And his body can appear anywhere in Chixia City at will. Where there is water, no one can catch him, not even world-destroying ghosts and gods. It was the special nature of the river god that gave him the capital to provoke Shenjian. He looked up. He looked at Shenjian provocatively. The terrifying aura belonging to ghosts and gods spread around him, and the river under his feet became turbulent. The altitude was getting higher and higher, and it exceeded 1,000 meters in the blink of an eye, like a ladder on the sea. The figure of the river god also began to be on par with Shen Jian. At the same time, as the river water rose, more and more water ghosts crawled out of the river and stared directly at Shen Jian. There is a strong impression that Shen Jian will tear his sense of déjà vu into pieces if he dares to enter the water. The other side. This sudden burst of movement also attracted the remaining survivors in Chixia City. They hid in high-rise buildings that had not yet been submerged, carefully spying on the situation outside. What happened? What happened? Are these water ghosts rioting again? There are 9 incidents in one day. If this trend continues, the high-rise building will soon collapse. When the time comes, it will be contaminated by river water, and none of us will be able to escape. All the survivors collapsed and shouted. Death is not scary, but waiting for death to come is the most terrifying thing. This will drive any ordinary person with a fragile mind crazy. It seems like someone is confronting the river god. Oh my god, is that person walking in the void? Can a ghost master reach this level? Someone discovered the clue and exclaimed. This attracted a lot of attention. They all cast their gazes over. There was another uproar. No, he's not the master of ghosts. He's the Lord of Hell. News came from Luteng City just now, saying that King Qin Guan came with the Book of Life and Death and the Judge's Pen to solve the ghost disaster there. At this time, a Daxia Longke member of the Chixia City branch said excitedly. But we see that he doesn't seem to have a life or death book or a judge's pen in his hands. Moreover, if these water ghosts are determined to hide under the water, there is absolutely nothing they can do against them. Someone questioned. The previously excited Chixia City Daxia Dragon Bird members were speechless. He really couldn't guarantee 100% that this man was the Lord of Hell. But as a member of the Great Xia Dragon Bird, he clearly knew that walking in the air and walking in the void was definitely not a method that a ghost controller should have. And at this time, how could anyone who dared to enter Chixia City to confront the river god be a simple person? Apart from the legendary King of Hell, there is basically no other answer. And he actually felt a little strange. How did King Qin Guang, who was in Luteng City just now, appear in Chixia City in just a few seconds? In the communicator, there is obviously news from time to time about King Qin Guang's solution to ghost troubles in Luteng City. In such doubts, the other side. Shen Jian looked at the provocative river god who was at the same height as him, then looked at the city flooded by sewage, and grinned. I am, the king of Chuzhang, in charge of the hell under the sea. Fight with me. How do you get the courage to control water? The words fell. Shen Jian's eyes fell on a high-rise building. Raise your hand slightly. A glass marble rises. It's not a supernatural thing, nor is there anything special about it. It's just a glass marble that I used to play with when I was a kid. 50 cents each. Swallow. Shen Jian spoke. The sound shook the whole world. The next second, the wind suddenly rises and the color of the sky and the earth changes. The river current under your feet was stirred and rose up crazily, forming a swirling eye of the storm, and all the glass marbles were sucked into it. In process, a large number of water ghosts were also frightened and were drawn into it. River god's pupils widened. The hair on his body exploded. He felt a great fear, and couldn't believe that half of the city was submerged in the river beneath his feet. This sewage river, which was made by man-made water and was perfect for water ghosts to wreak havoc on, gave him a strange and dangerous feeling at the moment. Under the river bed, there seems to be a cold chill hidden under it. Impossible, this is impossible. How could the supernatural environment I created resist me? You took away my control of the river area. This moment, the river god panicked. His face was full of horror and horror. If this was a natural lake or river, then it would be normal for him to lose in the competition for control. But this is a supernatural environment created by him. The sewage that flooded the entire Chixia city was his supernatural effect. How could anyone deprive him of his supernatural power? This is completely illogical. Even the so-called king of hell cannot be so overbearing. To this, Shen Jian just glanced at him. A hint of sneer appeared. The glass marble in his hand rose out of thin air, forming a vortex like a black hole, completely draining the sewage river that spread throughout Chixia city. Even the water ghosts in the entire city were sucked into it. No. The river god roared out, trying to escape from the supernatural environment he had created. However, with the river flow under complete control, even if he was the river god, he could not resist the powerful suction force formed by the river flow. He could only watch helplessly as his body followed the water flow and inhaled a small glass marble. The moment their eyes met, the words Shen Jian had just said appeared in He Shen's mind. He is the king of Shijiang, in charge of the hell under the sea. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 683. Chapter 679 Thunder Sways, God Punishes the World, Emperor Song. This moment, the survivors throughout Chixia city were in shock. Because what appeared before their eyes was a miracle that was rarely seen in the world. A large number of river currents rolled up, forming whirlpools like storms in the sea. One after another, they gathered crazily into the sky. Above the sky, a figure stood. A glass marble with a diameter of only a few centimeters rose out of thin air, absorbing all the turbulent sewage, and no limit could be seen at all. What a shocking scene! A 50-cent glass marble actually contained the river current that flooded the entire city. No matter how good they are at math, they still know how huge the amount of water that can flood a city is: 10,000 tons? 100,000 tons? Or million tons? No doubt. This is a miracle. A miracle that can only be caused by God. God appeared and sucked up all the sewage that flooded Chixia city. Putting millions of tons of water into a glass marble with a diameter of 2 centimeters, such a vast power is really amazing. And the glass marbles contained not only water, but also the water ghosts that wreaked havoc in the city, as well as their supernatural master, a ghost-level river god. Inside the high-rise building, everyone stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring at all this blankly. Then he set his sights on the only member of the great Xiaolonke. Because the glass marble flew out of his pocket. Are you sure these are the glass marbles we used to play with when we were kids? And not the legendary artifact from the Sea Dragon Palace in the Middle East, the Dingai Divine Pearl? Someone murmured. The tone was full of surprise. Anyone who sees the scene will doubt their life. I wonder if there are still legendary artifacts in this world. Otherwise, how could a 50-cent marble be able to suck tens of millions of tons of water into it together with all the ghosts? This is so dreamy. It's unbelievable. The Chixia City Daxia Dragon Bird member who was asked the question also blankly took out the glass marbles in his pocket. One of them failed to grasp it properly, and they all fell down and bounced on the ground, making a crisp sound. This time, it attracted everyone's looting. They held the glass marbles in their hands as if they were treasures and observed them carefully. But looking at it, this is just a pile of ordinary marbles. Nothing special about it. I bought these glass marbles at the supermarket downstairs for a few cents each. I collected them just to coordinate with my supernatural use. At this time, the Daxia Dragon Bird member also reacted, with full amazement in his tone. You have missed the point. Even if there are no glass marbles, he can still use plastic bags to exert such great power. Didn't you hear? He is God, the legendary lord of the second palace of the underworld, the king of Zhejiang. After King Yama and King Qin Guang, this is the third king of hell to appear in this world. Hear this. The minds of the survivors were still buzzing. Ghosts, gods, underworld, hell. Once upon a time, this was a word so far away from them. But now, the ghost has appeared, and God has followed. The legendary underworld appears, and the Lord of Hell appears. A series of news shocked them and made them fall into panic and unable to extricate themselves. But as they watched the water level continue to drop until the sewage was completely drained and the city returned to normal, they realized in hindsight that they seemed to have been saved. The legendary King Chuzhang saved the city. The other side. Shen Jian stopped what he was doing until the sewage was completely drained. A heavy glass marble fell into his hand. The weight has reached an alarming level. If you put it down, a large, bottomless hole will open directly in the ground. Because it contains tens of millions of tons of water, a 5-star supernatural place, and a ghost-level river god. Once leaked, the consequences would be disastrous. Except for him, no one can pick up this marble, which is heavier than a 10,000-meter mountain. Shen Jian tossed it twice. Decided to throw it into Huangchuan River and go to Zhenzhenhai. At the same time, Huangcheng City, Nanlin Province. An amazing scene is also happening. Gu Yuan is walking in the city with visibility of less than 1 meter. He is a member of the Daxia dragon bird who voluntarily entered the Nanlin province, and is the son of the ancient instructor of the demon city. Logically speaking, with his father's status, he does not have to enter this supernatural place where there is no life or death. But he is also a ghost master and a member of the Daxia dragon bird. If he does not come, the plan made by his father and other senior officials to rescue the ordinary people of Nanlin province will become a joke. After all, in the eyes of others, his father just talked the talk and asked members of the great Xiaolonke across the country to die. Even if they knew that this was the mission of the great Xiaolonke members, they would still have other emotions. So, here he comes. He was the first to respond to his father's plan. Voluntarily entering Nanlin province, by attracting the attention of the evil spirits, bought more time for ordinary people to evacuate, and also bought enough time for the underworld to provide support. Captain, the density of fog here has increased again. I'm afraid that in less than a day, everyone in the city will become blind, and they won't even be able to see anyone standing in front of them. A teammate analyzed. Tie the rope tightly and fumble forward. We still have hope. It is said that King Qin Guang has appeared in Luteng City, and King Zhejiang has also appeared in Chixia City. Perhaps the underworld has fully recovered, and there will be a new king of hell soon. Come and save the city. Gu Yuan encouraged morale. There was some hope in his eyes. Although he was ready to die here, he still wanted to survive if given the chance. As soon as this idea came up, there was a burst of thunder in the sky. It was like thunder on the ground. Everyone was shocked. I thought I was encountering an army of evil spirits. But following his gaze in the direction of the sound, Gu Yuan discovered that something strange had happened at the end of the sky. A strong wind rose. The lingering fog dissipated. Above the sky, the clouds in the sky surged wildly. Countless tiny lightning bolts suddenly burst into the void, and then countless electric lights entangled with each other, combined, and violently converged into a domineering figure of lightning that seemed to fill the world. At the same time that the thunderous figure appeared, behind him, the strong wind was raging, and the clouds were surging like the sky was falling. And between the gaps in the clouds, thunder and lightning roared in the sky, and the thunder and lightning reached the sky and the earth, swaying and surging, and flashing all over the sky, interweaving a thunderous purgatory full of destruction. This thundering figure is naturally Shen Jian. In other words, it is one of Shen Jian's past incarnations. He looked down at Huangcheng City below. He soon noticed a young man who looked somewhat similar to the ancient instructor. He looked slightly startled. I think this is the son that the ancient instructor mentioned. He glanced at the other person. Shen Jian looked away and soon saw the ghosts and gods of the city. Unlike the other two protagonists, this ghost and god is not a human form, but a slug with a human face on its head. It is 2 stories high and drags its body on the ground, every time. When you move around, a cloud of mist will appear on the ground and a small slug will be left behind. Little slugs move very quickly. Like a half-meter long caterpillar. The front section also has a human face, completely carved from the same mold. And little slugs like this are all over the city. They crawl into human bodies, like ironworms, burrow into human brains, absorb nutrients, and control human bodies at the same time, walking purposefully towards crowded places. Shen Jian saw it. Understood something. In this city's 5-star supernatural place, there is actually only one ghost-level ghost slug, but the opponent will attack it and assimilate all species it sees. If the other party is given time, he may become like the Zerg. Thinking. The ghost slug was frightened by this terrifying scene that looked like the coming of the doomsday. He looked up at Shen Jian, who looked like the god of thunder coming to the world, and his face suddenly froze, as if someone was strangling the throat of fate. Couldn't say a word. The next second, ghost slug reacted. It exploded like a ghost. The huge sound suddenly exploded into countless pieces, each piece was a clone of a small slug, scattered to every corner of the city. Apparently, Ghost Slug judged that he was no match for this thunder god, so he chose to split himself. As long as one piece escaped, he could survive. Haha, remember, I am the emperor of the Song dynasty, and I am punishing you on behalf of heaven. Shen Jian smiled. The smile was a bit sarcastic. Then, wave down. Boom. The next moment, thunder light surged behind Shen Jian, and the thunder clouds let out a roar that was even more turbulent and frightening than the roar of thunder, and then dozens, hundreds, or thousands of violent and terrifying thunders crashed down. In a tenth of an instant, all the little slugs that were going to be exploded into countless pieces and scattered all over the city were turned into black ashes. Surrender, I surrender. The ghost slug roared crazily, and thousands of little slugs also showed frightened expressions on their faces, and they all begged for mercy. However, Shen Jian's eyes were dark, as if he hadn't heard anything, and there was a flash of lightning in his eyes. The scope of the thunder tribulation cloud was once again increased. Thousands of miles of thunder clouds roared. Electric snakes roamed the sky, and the heavy clouds were cut into pieces, almost tearing the heaven and the earth apart. Every time an electric snake falls, a small slug trying to escape will turn into powder, leaving a pool of black slag in the ground. Amidst such thunderous infernal explosions, it seemed like there was only one sound left in the world. Gu Yuan, who was in the center of the thunder prison, looked at the figure bathed in thunder light high in the sky, his pupils shaking. Captain, he just said, who is he? Gu Yuan subconsciously said, the lord of the third palace of the underworld, Emperor Song, carries out punishment on behalf of heaven.